This is a continuation of the Mediterranean tortoise species. The last video I talked on Hermans and Russians, and in this video I'll concentrate on Greeks, the largest of the testudo, Marginateds, and the smallest of the testudo, the Egyptian tortoise. This is Graeca graeca and was commonly imported years ago, as was the Iberian Greek. And this is what we knew of much of the Greek tortoises, kind of an ugly looking tortoise, and a lot of people didn't really have interest in them. But they bred. There's a hatchling with the mother. The females are much larger than the males. But then these spectacular looking golden Greeks came in. These ones are from Syria. And these ones are from Jordan. This is an old one from Syria. I should mention I've had all these tortoises at least 20 years. When these first came in, I was told that you had to provide them heat in the winter, that they couldn't withstand our freezing temperatures, and that they didn't hibernate. Well, that proved not to be correct. Here's a couple of Jordanians. You'll see the colors vary greatly. These are the enclosures where I keep the Greek tortoises in Phoenix, Arizona year-round without supplemental heat. They hibernate, bury in the sand or hay in their hide box. But I've been to Jordan a number of areas, and it's interesting that if you've been to Petra, for example, a guy used to collect tortoises to sell as souvenirs along the way. And it actually snows there. So obviously, the Jordanian Greeks can withstand extremely cool temperatures. Another interesting thing to note is these oleanders. Not something we purposely plant, but they are native to the area where some of these tortoises are found. I guess it should be mentioned that even though the common name is Greek tortoise, well, most of these, maybe all of them, aren't really found in Greece. Here's a listing of 16 species and where they're found. Some of these may no longer be valid. Many are very similar in appearance, but even of the same species, colors can vary greatly. These tortoises were imported together from Syria. Are they Tortoise, flower eye? Are they even the same species? Testudo terrestis can have all yellow specimens or black. These are from Jordan. Terrestis are also found there. Who knows the origin of some of the specimens? I just keep ones that came in together and try not to mix them, because most of them will interbreed, and there probably are a lot of hybrids available. They're all fed the typical tortoise diet: high fiber, high calcium, low phosphorus. Various dark leafy greens, carrots, zucchini, grape leaves, mulberry tree leaves, spineless prickly pear. There's a variety of different things that they'll eat, in addition to some grasses. But the color and variation of the Greeks make them one of my favorite. Plus, they don't get that large. I usually keep them with multiple females to each male, as males can be quite aggressive and frequently ramming the females to get them to breed. Here's a female digging in the hide box to lay eggs. They dig a shallow burrow, lay several eggs. I'll generally stuff this hide box with hay during the winter. Greek tortoise pen. See, there's some eggs on the surface. These eggs were likely dug up by another tortoise as it burrowed in the hide box for protection. The eggs are removed and put in a plastic shoebox on peat moss or vermiculite. Those round eggs are actually marginated eggs, and the Greek eggs are typically oblong, as are Russians. Most of these eggs have chalked up and appear fertile, but you can see that one Greek egg is discolored and obviously isn't fertile. But after about 2 months, temperature in the mid to upper 80s, these eggs will all hatch. This one small egg, that's actually an Egyptian tortoise egg, just to show a comparison of size. These hatchlings are kept indoors through their first winter, and now it's ready to move them outside. But that's how their indoor pen looks before they're moved outside. Various Greeks with one Russian for comparison. In their outdoor pen, they'll have hide areas, fountain grass, and places where they can feel secure and escape the extreme temperatures. But from here on out, their life will be outdoors. If need be, they should be protected from predators, as even birds can easily pick up a small tortoise like this and fly off. Well, the 5 types of Mediterranean tortoises in the genus Testudo can appear somewhat similar. Even as hatchlings, their plastron will show quite a different variation. As I pick up the Greeks, you'll see that they have kind of a splotchy plastron. There may be different amounts of black on it, but as I show you some of the other species, you'll see how it varies. That one has quite a bit of black, but it's still not in any formal pattern. And this one has very little black. But based on that plastron, you can tell they're a Greek. There's comparison to a Russian, completely different on the plastron. Here we'll take a look at the triangle markings on the plastron of a marginated tortoise. And next, this is a hatchling Egyptian tortoise. And here's a marginated hatchling next to a Greek hatchling, just for comparison, which differs from the Hermann's tortoise. Can you guess what this is? How about this one? Hopefully you're getting so you can tell the difference. The Russian completely covered, and the Greeks all have a splotchy plastron as hatchlings, unless there's no black on it at all. It can be almost entirely black or very little black. Oftentimes, when they're new imports, they come from a different country. Here are Libyan Greeks. There's a male on the left, female on the right. Another picture of them, that time the male's on the right. But they were a spectacular tortoise, not quite as hardy as most of the other Greek species. A lot of us had problems with them as they came out of hibernation or brumation, as a number of the males died. I water my pens frequently during the summer, as temperatures often exceed 110, and the sandy, loose soil drains rapidly and won't hold moisture. I also have to water the fountain grass, and that's where they typically will lay eggs. The water not only brings out the color of their shells, but also increases their activity. Not only do they need moisture in the soil to lay eggs,
this is a Jordanian Greek,
but on rainy days, overcast days is when they're the most active, and the males will be ramming females. Now, let's talk about marginated tortoises. Marginated tortoises are the largest of the genus Testudo. Here a female slowly digs her burrow in the moist grass at the base of the fountain grass. Let's see if we can speed up the process a little. This whole process would take an hour or two, and you can see how slow it goes. So let's go to time lapse. She'll dig the perfect burrow with her legs. In this case, once she stops, she lays 7 eggs. Then I'll remove her to collect the eggs, and then I'll replace her to cover over the eggs. I've moved her out so I can collect the eggs. So I'll just reach in, grab a couple eggs. She's trying to move back to fill in the nest. So now I'll move her back, and she laid 7 eggs. She'll cover over her empty nest, undeterred by my interference. Marginateds may be some of the most aggressive, and the males and females may have to be separated if the male bites and is injuring the female too much, so be aware. The marginated tortoise lives in more mountainous regions in Greece than the Hermann's tortoise and can be found in elevations exceeding 500 feet. The black color of the carapace is a helpful survival element as it helps it absorb heat. Here's some hatchlings. There's one being kept indoors, which can be done in large cattle troughs or similar. Hermann's, Greeks, Russians, and Egyptians, being smaller, are even easier to keep indoors than marginateds. Eggs are incubated on peat moss, vermiculite, and you can see the egg tooth there that all tortoises use to break out of their shell. A population of smaller marginated tortoises is found on Sardinia, and is sometimes see that listed as a separate species or subspecies, Testudo wessinger. These are the largest of the testudo, and males and females can be of similar size. Their diet and care is similar to the Greeks. However, males can be extremely aggressive, biting the female's legs, so monitor and separate if necessary. While talking about marginated tortoises, I should mention that Greek tortoises such as this Ibera, Hermann's, Russians can interbreed. In fact, the Ibera Greeks shown here are known to interbreed, produce viable offspring with Russians, Hermann's, and marginated tortoises. You'll see in this video,
you'll see the difference in size between the male and the female.
Ibera Greek, female on the left, male on the right.
Is the
large see how much larger the female is than those two males. Well, we recommend that you never combine different tortoise species. The Greeks, Hermann's, Russians, it's even more critical. Not only can you spread disease, but you can also produce hybrids. Here's just another look at the Iberans to show the difference in size. And here's a marginated female just walking along in her pen. You can see the color variation from very dark. This is an Ibera Greek digging to lay eggs, and being the larger of some of the Greeks, they will lay larger clutches of eggs, 8-9 eggs not being uncommon. There's one of the hatchlings with its mom. And even though the Ibera Greek female is much larger than the males, they will constantly ram her and try to entice her to breed. So, just like the marginateds, watch them, and if bothered too much, you may need to separate them. Comparison of male and female. Now, let's talk about Egyptian tortoises. Egyptian tortoises are one of the smallest tortoises and the smallest of the testudo. Though they have not been imported into the United States in many years, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is currently working to get them listed as threatened and endangered species and prevent the sale or trade across state lines. If this proposal passes, they will no longer be available for sale across state lines, greatly reducing the availability of captive-born hatchlings. This is the Negev Desert in Israel, where these tortoises are found. That's a desert monitor, and this is the habitat. Well, in Israel, they don't refer to them by the common name Egyptian tortoise. Rather, they use the term desert tortoise. These are now classified as the same species found in Egypt and Libya, Testudo clymeni. Egyptian tortoises have a very short period of activity. It's either too cold and they're brumating or too hot and they're estivating. In Phoenix, I would keep the adults outside through the summer, and then as temperatures started to cool down, I would bring them inside and keep them indoors so as not to experience freezing temperatures. These photos from the Negev Desert show that it's a sandy area, not a lot of vegetation, and the people there actually find them by tracking their footprints. This is where I keep them in Phoenix, on just our regular desert ground, and much the way I keep the Greeks, the Hermans, and Marginateds. And they're active in the spring, and when there's some moisture, they eat the same diet as the other tortoises. And there's an example of an indoor enclosure, sometimes just move them to tubs. They'll breed anytime they're active, and there's a hatchling. Like the other testudo, they'll lay eggs in the spring in the slightly moist sand, typically at the base of a plant or where you've watered. The hatchlings are small, 6-7 grams, as compared to a hatchling Russian that's about 20 grams. So the eggs are about half the size as the other eggs, and the hatchlings show the starts of the kind of triangle pattern on the plastron. And on the carapace, they're kind of a brown color. Much different coloration and look than what they are as they grow and become adults, where they're basically a brownish tan color, much lighter than this hatchling color. And sometimes those dark marks on their plastron will actually disappear as they age. I maintain the hatchlings just as I do other tortoise hatchlings, on slightly moist peat moss with grass covering. Allow them to burrow into the ground and maintain some humidity. And of course, their diet is similar to the adults. Adults max out at about 5 to 6 inches for a female and smaller for a male. But I feed them everything from lettuce, carrots. Here the adults are munching on zucchini. They're a great tortoise species, but not as active as most of the other testudos. I also have to bring them in during the winter months, and then I put them back out in the spring when they lay eggs. But they are a smaller species, and whether you're looking at Hermans, Greeks, Russians, whatever species you get, all the testudos are very friendly, but breeding between males and females can be quite aggressive. but there's some spectacular looking specimens. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day with whatever tortoise you decide on.